Hi, my name's Cameron Carlson. I'm here with AnimeLocation.tv. I'm here at Colossalcon 2015 with Mr. Sean Forney. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing okay. So, what are some of the aspects of Colossalcon that you enjoy that called you out to you and wanted to come back this year?
The big reason was the water park. But no, it's the con's great. The promoters that run it are great. They also run Cleveland Comic Con. Got to know them through that, and just all the fans. It's a much different vibe than most of the other comic book conventions that we do. So it's a different way to get my name out there, get in front of faces that I wouldn't ordinarily see.
Alrighty, and it's fun to meet you too. I always have great chats with you. So you have been doing this for over 13 years. How has the comic book industry changed since the time you started being involved? You know, I think 13 years ago we started going away from the standard ink and block and everything and paper, and then started going more digital and distribution, that style. So big changes have come within the last 13 years for the whole media entertainment system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned slightly the technology changes. That's been a big player here recently in the last couple of years for me, just being able to put some of my work out digitally through different digital means like Comixology and Drive-Thru Comics. But also, the fan base has changed so much. And really, it's changed so much in just the last, 3, maybe 5 years. Some of the conventions we go to, there'd be maybe 10, 20,000 people that would come through the door. And then we kind of all joked about it when Avengers came out. We joked and called it the Avengers stimulus plan, because every convention we went to after that movie came out, attendance at conventions just exploded. One convention in particular, their previous record number of attendees was 20,000, and this year they hit 50,000. Yeah. And it's just it's great to see that all of that's having an impact, bringing new fans in, getting a lot younger faces come into the shows, and broadening the audience. I see so much more now than we used to. It used to be, the majority of the fan base was men that were 30s on up, and now all of a sudden we've got there's a bunch of men and women showing up to conventions. And their younger audience, and it's cool to get them, see them come into something that's been around for, some of the stuff's been here for 75 years, yeah. And then all of a sudden they come in and they're a fan. They love this stuff. They want to find out more about Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, whatever. It's awesome.
And comic books just helps fit a lot of people too, and also just feels good for everybody. So it's good for all ages. Yeah. Now, does the flood of comic book movies that are hitting the box office, as we discussed, translate to the popularity for you guys on the comic book side as well, so that you like you said, it's an Avengers stimulus package. You're able to do more art in those mediums, but also potentially expose your own art for more readers as well. So how do you feel about, we just had Age of Ultron come out this past month. We have Ant-Man coming out. We have the Batman vs. Superman coming up, and of course, the ever so leaked Suicide Squad coming out. So how is it like seeing all those different comic movies start to get a lot more mainstream attention?
Yeah, it really does. It's again, in the last couple of years, everything has become mainstream. It's now you can walk into Walmart or something and you can go get a superhero T-shirt. Whereas just a handful of years ago, it was you had to order it through Diamond, or you had to go to a specialty shop in order to find something that had something comic book oriented on it. So it's great, and it translates to people. Like I said, they're coming through the doors at conventions. They're showing off their fandom by going around and picking up artwork and comic books and whatnot. And I've seen it a little bit in comic shops. I don't see it as much because I'm not in the comic shop that often to see how that's translating there. But at least in seeing the actual fan numbers increase, it's definitely made an impact for sure.
All right. Now you're currently working on a pinup book. Tell us about that project. I see you have some lovely art to show off for us of some lovely ladies.
I do. So I'll try to show these off here. Hopefully they show up all right. These are just a handful of the most recent pieces.
Very beautiful.
Thank you. These two here, this one, the kind of Sailor Moon inspired thing, and
that's cool. It's Goku.
And then the Dragon Ball inspired one. I did these just the last week or two before the show.
Last week?
Yeah, I wanted something to kind of translate into this genre, and Oh, the first one. Trying to get it to cross over a little bit, hit some different areas. I've always been a big fan of the classic pinup art of like Vargas and Elfgren and all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to do something that translated into the comic book medium and try to mix in all these kind of, not only mixing in like the themes of like superheroes and anime and even doing a little bit of fairy tale stuff, but just try to get some of the, like that fan type stuff. I've got a couple other pinups I'm working on where it's, trying to work on the idea of video games and the collector mentality and things like that, and put that in there just to kind of hit a different area, a different field that I don't normally get to work in, but I can kind of make it cross over a little bit, make it work both ways. I can do something that I have a passion for and mix it with something else I have a passion for. And I got very lucky over the last couple of years of doing all these shows and meeting a lot of different people. I've ended up making friends with some cosplayers and models that were more than willing to help out with doing this, and they've been fantastic. They've helped me promote it. One of them's here this weekend. I'm hoping she'll swing by. She was offering up to sign some of the prints for people. So it's been a good working relationship with everybody to get the photos, work on the artwork, and then again they help promote it. They get the word out, and they're ecstatic because they see themselves as a drawing of something that they like. Not only they do the modeling, cosplay stuff, but they're actual fans. They actually get into all this stuff. Yeah.
And you have models working with you as well. Tell us about these talented models on their other side of the book. Like you said, we were discussing about that they're fans of their own medium, that they've cosplayed and dressed up and everything. So is it like a one-on-one? Like how do you go about? Like, do you do a photo shoot with them first to get reference the photos and then go off and make the fantastic pinup art? Like, so is that kind of how the process goes?
Yeah. I met with each one of them for probably an hour or two, shot a bunch of photos. We tried to come up with some ideas of poses and characters, things like that, because I'm trying to do everything that's kind of reminiscent of, different things. Like I said, some of it was Dragon Ball inspired and whatnot. So it's, get some poses that are inspired by that. And then, I pick through the photos and find the ones that work best, or I kind of like Frankenstein some poses together and work from that. And then I do a drawing. And then I ink the drawing, and then I digitally color it in Photoshop, and then I've got the finished image to print. So it's not all that different of a process, other than now I've got one extra step of doing photographs that's at the beginning.
Alrighty, and now you have a ton of other things on your plate going on right now. Tell us about what you were working on this time that over the past year from last year.
Okay. I spent the last year working on Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja, which was a comic book that came out sometime in the 90s, had a really big following. It kind of followed along with that whole idea of like Ninja Turtles and stuff, where it had this, just like exploded from this indie comic thing. Right. And it kind of went away for a little bit, so they're bringing it back. The original writer is doing the script. I'm working with Marat Michaels. He's doing the line art, and I'm doing the coloring for the book. Cool. We just wrapped up issue 5. I believe issue 1 should be hitting comic shops pretty soon.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And also working with Marat on a handful of other things. He's got a couple of his own independent titles that he does that he's had me come on board to help out with. And then I'm working with Joe Martino doing a book called Cyberines, which is kind of like a X-Men type group to kind of dumb it down a little bit. It's a group of like superheroes that are all enhanced in some certain way. They work for the government. And I worked on issue 1. I did the coloring, and I'm doing the coloring on issue 3. Issue 2 they already had done before I was ever brought on the project. Last year I worked with 2 talented individuals, Ben Miller and Corey Hampshire. We worked on a book called Judges. Unfortunately, due to scheduling and whatnot, I wasn't able to work on issue 2, but I'm hoping I can get back together with those guys at some point, work on some more stuff with them. But it's a fantastic book. Had a lot of fun working on it. I've worked with Corey on a couple other projects, so it was awesome to get a chance to work with him again. And I got a couple of odds and ends here and there that I'm working on for the rest of the year. So
You sound pretty busy.
Yeah.
Plus also all the rest of your conventions you got. Now, you seem to be a big fan of comics and cartoons from the 1980s. Besides Spider-Man, which we know you love, what other comics would you love to see and get to work on from that decade if you got the chance to work on them?
I would love the chance to work on something He-Man oriented. I am a giant He-Man nut. If I was ever given the opportunity to draw the book, I would, I'd probably drop everything else just to do that. And most of the other 80s properties too, but that's the big one. The other thing I think that I would love to get my hands on would be something with Thundercats.
Yeah, that'd be great. I was going to say, I love He-Man, I love Thundercats, and it's a short-lived series for Thundercats, so it would be great to see that come back. And then, of course, who can't resist the stop-motion animation from He-Man of, of course, the backgrounds then don't move at the same time. It's great. Now, of course, we've already talked a lot about stuff. Can you tell fans about your time in comics and how, if they ever wanted to get into it, what would be a simple way to get into comics? Just learning how to just do simple line art or simple coloring.
The best thing I could recommend is practice. I mean, that's the easiest part about doing it is it's a medium where you can, doesn't matter whether you grab a piece of paper and a pencil or pen or you grab a tablet or something like that, sit down and do it. Just draw. Paint, whatever. Getting in the industry obviously is a much more difficult situation, but it comes from getting that portfolio built up by doing that practice, learning how the medium works, understanding it, and then it's about going out, networking, finding creators and editors to talk to find out how to get in the industry. There's so many different avenues anymore. But the biggest things anymore seem to be having a presence online, having a Tumblr or a DeviantArt account, something where people can see your artwork. Getting your name out there, getting people to take notice is probably the biggest way of getting into the industry and getting work, getting noticed, getting published. All these things is having that portfolio that speaks for itself. And being able to put that out there publicly to anybody online. I mean, it's when I started doing this, it wasn't so easy to do that. DeviantArt came out just as I was getting into this, and I started my website as I was wrapping up college, the last year, and I knew absolutely nothing about building a website. So it was very difficult to figure out how to put together a portfolio so people could find me, and then. Boom! All the social media explodes, a couple years later, and now it's so much easier to not only get into contact with the publishing side and getting work, but fans. It makes it so much easier to interact and build that fan base through all those means.
Alrighty, now as we discussed social media and everything, how can fans keep up with you? I know you have a Twitter account. I know you have a Facebook account, DeviantArt, Tumblr. What am I forgetting at this point?
Instagram's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. All that stuff is linked from my website, which is real easy. It's SeanForney.com. Facebook, Twitter, and all those things, easy to find. Search my name. Twitter and Instagram are both Sean Forney Art, and Facebook Sean Forney Illustration. I appreciate everybody stopping by at all the conventions, visiting the website and everything. It's great. I wouldn't be doing this if there weren't everybody wanting to see my art and purchase it, whatever. So thank you.
And thank you, Sean, for coming and talking with us and hanging out with us this weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.